Morning doesn't always come gently. Sometimes it arrives like a warrior, breaking through clouds, pushing past the weight of the night, spilling golden streaks over tired rooftops, and maybe, this morning, you feel more like the night than the sunrise. Maybe you're waking up in silence, carrying yesterday's fears, quietly praying that today feels different, but unsure if it will. If that's you, this message is yours. Because behind every strong face is a story not yet told. Behind every quiet coffee sip at dawn is a decision. I'll try again today. Not every battle is fought out loud. Some of the fiercest ones happen behind closed doors, in kitchens filled with bills, in bedrooms with broken sleep, in minds that won't stop spinning. But here's what you need to remember. The fact that you're still here, still breathing, still listening, still trying, that is the fight, and that makes you powerful. In the quiet corners of the world, courage often wears no medal, no crown, no parade. It lives in the soft strength of people like Elena, a 42-year-old woman in Seville, Spain. You won't find her name in newspapers or hear it shouted across stadiums, but every morning before the sun warms the terracotta rooftops of her neighborhood, she laces up her worn-out shoes and walks to her first job. Elena cleans offices. Later in the day, she works as a home caretaker. At night, she tucks in her 14-year-old son, Miguel, who believes she's the strongest person alive. What Miguel doesn't know, what Elena doesn't allow him to see, is the pain she carries in her joints, the flare-ups of a chronic illness she's been quietly battling for 8 years. She doesn't complain, doesn't stop, she can't afford to. But each morning, as she boils water for her single cup of tea, she whispers to herself, "One more day, just one more day." Elena is a fighter, and so are you. You don't have to be on a battlefield to be in a war. Some of you are fighting to stay in school when everyone else expects you to drop out. Some are battling depression behind smiles no one questions. Some are holding together a family while quietly falling apart inside. These are the battles no one sees, but they are no less real, no less worthy of honor. Winston Churchill once said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." And courage, by its very nature, often goes unnoticed. We live in a world that celebrates highlight reels, promotions, new homes, before and after photos. But what about the person who just got out of bed today despite the weight on their chest? What about the mom who makes sure her child never feels the hunger she knows? What about the man who walked away from a toxic job with no backup plan, but with his dignity intact? That's courage. That's victory. We don't often applaud the quiet triumphs, but maybe we should. Sometimes, keeping your head above water is the miracle. Sometimes showing up, tired, uncertain, afraid, is the bravest thing you can do. And if that's you today, hear this clearly. You are not weak. You are not behind. You are in the middle of becoming. The author and motivational speaker Lisa Nichols wrote, "Your story is not meant to be your fortress, it's meant to be your fuel." Think about that. The pain you're hiding, the chapters you're ashamed of, those are not signs of failure. They're proof that you've lived, fought, endured, and are still here. And you don't have to keep everything together. It's okay to cry in the shower and still be strong. It's okay to whisper, "I can't do this," and still do it anyway. Strength doesn't always look like shouting. Sometimes it's a whisper that repeats, "Don't give up." Sometimes it's doing the dishes while grieving. Sometimes it's applying for one more job after 20 rejections. Sometimes it's calling a friend when shame tells you to stay silent. You're not alone in this, and you never have been. Across oceans and time zones, people are waking up this morning just like you, with burdens unseen, battles still raging, and yet they rise. Not because life is easy, but because they've decided that difficulty doesn't get the final word. You can too. In a world that rushes toward results, you must protect the sacredness of effort. You must learn to honor your showing up, not just your showing off. Progress is personal. Healing is not linear. And being okay is a moving target. So stop measuring yourself against people who aren't in your shoes. Do not judge my story by the chapter you walked in on, goes the saying. Your story is still unfolding. This morning, can I challenge you to try something? Before you check your phone, before you step into the noise of the world, sit with yourself just for a moment. Put your hand over your heart. Feel that. That's your life. That's your rhythm. That's your permission to keep going. You don't need a 10-step plan or a motivational playlist or a perfect body or a dream job. You just need one choice: to try, and then to try again tomorrow. Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. That quote by J.K. Rowling isn't just literary, it's deeply human. She wrote it after being rejected countless times, after battling depression, after wondering if her dream was foolish. She didn't rise because she had certainty. She rose because she refused to stay buried. So let that be your reminder. Even the lowest place can be a beginning. You may not see it now, but your resilience is already shaping your future. Every time you resist giving up, every time you pause and breathe instead of break, every time you show up when you'd rather disappear, you are building something sacred, inner strength. And it builds slowly, not in fireworks, but in flickers, not in applause, but in discipline, not in guarantees, but in grit. The world may never know the full weight of what you're carrying, but you know. And that's enough. So here's your micro habit for today. Before you leave your room, speak one sentence of pride to yourself. It could be simple: I'm proud of you for getting up. Or honest: you're doing better than you think. Or brave: I will not give up on myself. Say it in the mirror. Say it in the silence. Say it even if you don't fully believe it yet. You're not lying to yourself. You're learning how to speak life into places that have gone dry. The battle behind closed doors is real, but so is your power to win it. You don't need to be loud to be fierce. You don't need to be seen to be worthy. You just need to stay in the fight. And today, by listening to this, by choosing not to give up, you already have.
Tiny wins, mighty warriors. Not all victories come with fireworks. Some arrive like a soft knock on the door. A quiet, "You did it," whispered into the morning light. In this world where everyone rushes to celebrate the big moments, the promotions, the grand openings, the transformations, it's easy to forget how powerful the small wins are. But you and I, we know the truth. The hardest battles are often fought in silence, and the tiniest victories are often the bravest ones. Meet Jonas, a 27-year-old man from Malmö, Sweden. You won't find his face in a magazine or his name trending on social media. But Jonas is a warrior in the truest sense. Not long ago, he was battling alcohol addiction, one that crept into his life in college and quickly took control. By 25, he had lost a job, distanced himself from his family, and almost lost himself. But one morning, hungover, ashamed and tired of his own excuses, he walked into a neighborhood bakery looking for work. He didn't have a resume, just trembling hands and an honest request: "I need a place to start again." The bakery owner, a gruff but kind-hearted man named Emil, gave him a chance. The work wasn't glamorous. Every morning, Jonas arrived at 4 a.m., washing trays, kneading dough, mopping floors. His body ached. His mind fought back, and the cravings came like waves. But every day, Jonas marked his sobriety with a red X on a calendar taped behind the bakery fridge. One day turned into 2, then 10, then 50. Today, he's 83 days sober, still counting, still fighting. You see, Jonas didn't wait for the world to clap for him. He clapped for himself. Every red X is a tiny win, and tiny wins build empires. Let that sink in. You don't have to leap to change your life. You only have to take one small, steady step at a time. When you zoom out, it's not the intensity that shapes your future. It's the consistency. Small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements gained slowly over time. That's from John C. Maxwell, and it couldn't be more true. Whether you're training for a marathon or learning how to love yourself again, the magic isn't in the bursts, it's in the rhythm. But the world doesn't teach us to value the slow progress. Social media shows us before and after, but skips the during. You see a friend's wedding photos, but not the nights they cried wondering if they'd ever be loved. You hear someone's weight loss story, but not the mornings they stood in front of the mirror fighting shame. We romanticize results and forget the quiet revolution of repetition. So here's what I want you to remember today. The fact that you got out of bed when your mind told you to stay under the covers, that matters. The fact that you drank water instead of another cup of coffee when your anxiety kicked in, that matters. The fact that you paused before reacting in anger, that matters. Because every time you choose a better habit, no matter how small, you rewrite your story. Let's talk about something simple but powerful. The non-negotiable. It's one thing, just one, that you do every morning no matter what. It could be something small. Drink a full glass of water, write one line in a journal, stretch for 60 seconds, say one prayer, make your bed. It sounds trivial, but it's not. A non-negotiable isn't about the task, it's about the message it sends to your soul. I can count on me. Dr. B.J. Fogg, in his book Tiny Habits, explains that the key to transformation is simplicity, not willpower. You change best by feeling good, he writes, and feeling good comes when you keep promises to yourself, even the smallest ones. This is why Jonas didn't start by swearing off alcohol forever. He just focused on today, this morning, this moment, this dough to knead, this hour to stay sober. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. Those words by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. remind us that clarity comes with motion, not the other way around. So if you're standing at the bottom of a mountain this morning, overwhelmed by how far you have to go, stop looking up. Look down. Take the next step, then the next. Don't let the size of the goal paralyze you. Let the size of your heart drive you. And remember this quote by Confucius. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. Progress is still progress, even when no one sees it, even when it's messy, even when you stumble. Jonas still has tough days. There are moments when the cravings return, when shame whispers in his ear. But every morning he chooses his non-negotiable. Wake up, show up, knead the bread, mark the red X. His hands are steady now, not because the past is gone, but because the present is stronger. That's what I want for you. Not perfections, powerful presence, not overwhelming change, tiny forward motion. So what will your micro win be today? Will you take your vitamins? Will you forgive yourself for yesterday? Will you speak kindly to yourself as you brush your teeth? Let's get practical. If you need ideas, here are 5 powerful micro habits you can start this week. 2-minute gratitude. Say or write 3 things you're grateful for before touching your phone. Silent start. Spend the first 5 minutes in silence. No news, no messages, just you and your breath. One-line journal. Write one sentence about how you feel. No pressure, just truth. Cold splash. Reset. End your morning shower with 10 seconds of cold water. Boosts mental clarity. Mirror moment. Look yourself in the eye and say, I'm worth the effort. The point isn't to be perfect. The point is to be present. The point is to build trust with yourself again through repetition, through rhythm, through love and action. When a baby takes their first steps, we don't scold them for falling. We celebrate the effort. When you begin again today, don't judge your progress. Applaud your courage. You are not broken for needing a fresh start. You are brilliant for choosing one. And one more thing. Stop comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20. You're not late. You're not behind. You're building something real, something lasting, something sacred. Tiny wins make mighty warriors.
When no one cheers, clap for yourself. What if no one ever sees how hard you're trying? What if the effort you give day after day goes unnoticed, uncelebrated, and unrewarded for now? Would you still keep going? This part is for you, the one who's been showing up quietly, the one who's been fighting battles that no one else claps for. Because here's the truth, waiting for the world to validate your worth is a losing game. The most powerful form of encouragement is the kind you give to yourself. Let me tell you about Amira, a 33-year-old woman living in Lyon, France. 10 years ago, Amira fled Syria with nothing but a suitcase, her sewing machine, and a 2-year-old daughter in her arms. She didn't speak the language. She had no network, just thread, fabric, and resilience. She started small, hemming trousers in exchange for groceries, mending coats in exchange for diapers. At night, after putting her daughter to sleep, she'd teach herself French through children's books and old radio programs. Years passed. Her reputation grew. Locals began calling her La Magicienne de la Couture, the sewing magician. Today, Amira owns a tailoring boutique in a quiet street of Lyon's first arrondissement. But she says the most meaningful moment wasn't the grand opening. It was a Wednesday afternoon when a customer, an elderly French woman, tried on a newly altered jacket and said, with teary eyes, "You made me feel beautiful again." That sentence, it broke her, not because of its grandeur, but because it was the first time someone outside her circle saw her work, not as survival, but as art. For years, Amira clapped for herself. When no one noticed, when no one praised, when no one understood how hard it was to raise a child alone, to rebuild life in a language not her own. Her applause was the sound of a zipper stitched perfectly, a corner ironed to perfection, a whisper to herself, "You did good." If you're waiting for someone to notice your effort, don't. Be your own cheerleader. Clap for your small wins. Praise your persistence. Love your growth. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Carl Jung? And that's a powerful thing. You don't need external confirmation to become extraordinary. You need daily commitment, even when the room is silent. Many people don't see your late nights, your early mornings, your tears, your doubts, the conversations you rehearse in your head. They don't see the kindness you extend when no one's watching, or the self-control you practice when it would be easier to explode. But you know, and that knowing is enough. If you are always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be. Maya Angelou. When you break away from what's expected, when you live, grow, work, and love authentically, you become unstoppable. Not because you're loud, but because you're real. Clapping for yourself doesn't mean arrogance. It means recognition. It means refusing to let your worth
hang in the hands of others. It means saying, I know how hard this is, and I honor it. So how do we live this? How do we cheer ourselves on, even in silence? Start with this morning, right now. Place your hand over your heart and say something kind to yourself. Something true, not exaggerated, not performative, just kind. Like, you handled yesterday better than you think. You're healing, even if it's slow. I'm proud of you for still trying. That's a round of applause your soul can hear. And here's a powerful micro habit to strengthen that voice. Every morning, write down one sentence you'd say to your younger self. Something healing, something encouraging. Try, I forgive you. Or, I'm proud of you. Or, you made it further than you thought you would. You'll be amazed at how your inner dialogue changes when you start speaking to yourself like someone you love. You have been criticizing yourself for years, and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. Louise Hay, this isn't toxic positivity. This is quiet self-respect. Think about your favorite underdog story. Maybe it's a movie. Maybe it's someone in your own life. You didn't admire them because they had it easy. You admired them because they had grit, because they fell down and got up again, because they clapped for themselves when the stands were empty. Be that for yourself. You don't need everyone to understand your journey. You just need to not give up on it. So today, I challenge you. When you take a small step, celebrate it. When you resist an old habit, smile for yourself. When you get through the day without quitting, honor that. Applause doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be real. If you're a mom who managed to hold it together for your kids while quietly breaking inside, clap for yourself. If you're a student who showed up to class despite anxiety, clawing at your chest, clap for yourself. If you're an entrepreneur who made 0 sales today, but still plans to try again tomorrow, clap for yourself. You are becoming someone remarkable, and you're doing it in the dark, in the quiet, in the hard places. When no one cheers, clap for yourself. Because the world may not always recognize your efforts, but your soul does. Your body knows when you've chosen to push forward. Your spirit rises every time you say, not today, fear. Not today, shame. And one day, someone will look at you and say, you make me feel like I can do it too. And when that happens, you'll realize that your quiet persistence was not just about survival. It was a gift to you and to the world. Keep going.
The middle is the hardest part. The beginning gets all the excitement. You know it. That burst of energy when you finally decide to change your life. Maybe you've been thinking about it for months, maybe years. And one day, you start. You feel hopeful, driven, clear. It's like standing at the foot of a mountain with the sunrise at your back, feet fresh, heart steady. You're filled with belief that this time, something will be different. And the end. Oh, we all dream of the end. That goal finally reached. The day you cross the finish line, the applause, the exhale, the I did it moment. We picture ourselves there, standing strong, finally free of what used to hold us back. It glows in our minds like a lighthouse on the horizon. But the middle gets ignored. The middle is where most people lose themselves. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't want it badly enough, but because the middle is where clarity fades. It's where the novelty wears off and the rewards feel far away, where you wake up and realize, I'm not even close to the finish line, and I don't feel like I've moved at all. It's where you begin to question everything. I want to talk to you about the middle, because that's where most of us live. Not on mountaintops, not in moments of glory, but in the long in-between, where things get quiet and hard and heavy, where your routines start to feel stale and progress moves so slowly it's nearly invisible. That's where Matteo was. Matteo is 51 years old and he works at a factory just outside São Paulo. For over 2 decades, his life was predictable. Wake early, take the same train, clock in, operate the same machinery, clock out, come home to his daughter, Isabel. He didn't complain. He was proud to have work, to provide. But there was something inside him, a whisper that had grown louder over the years. He had never finished high school, dropped out in his teens to help his father, never had time, never had support, never had anyone tell him he could go back. Then one night, Isabel brought home a math problem and asked for help. Matteo looked at the numbers, the symbols, the logic behind it, and felt shame bloom in his chest. He couldn't help her. He didn't know how. That moment changed him. He decided to go back to school, signed up for night classes, bought notebooks, pens, used textbooks. He was nervous, unsure of himself, but excited too. At first, the first few weeks felt good, motivating. People cheered him on. He stayed awake through fatigue, made it to class, even when it rained. But then came the middle. The hours got longer, his feet, already sore from standing all day, ached more. He fell behind on assignments. He missed a quiz after staying late at the factory to cover someone's shift. And worse, no one was cheering anymore. Friends stopped asking how school was going. The newness had worn off. His daughter still smiled, but she was busy with her own school, her own life. That's when he almost quit. Not because he couldn't do it, but because it was too quiet, too hard, too slow. He told himself, maybe this wasn't meant for someone like me. Maybe this is foolish, selfish, late. And maybe you felt that too. Like you're trying to build something that nobody sees. Like you're pouring effort into a dream that doesn't seem to move forward. Like you're sacrificing things, sleep, comfort, time with loved ones, and you're not even sure if it'll pay off. That's the middle. And the middle will test you in ways the beginning never did. When you started, you had momentum. When you finish, you'll have relief. But right now, you have to hold the weight of the in-between. The unanswered questions, the daily doubts, the hard mornings when nothing feels new or promising. This is where most people give up. Not because they failed, but because they didn't know the middle would feel like this. Matteo didn't quit. He adjusted. He told himself, just tonight, just this lesson, just this one chapter. That was all he could manage. And some nights, it was still too much. But he kept showing up. What changed wasn't the pressure. It was how he responded to it. There's a quote I want you to remember. Perseverance is not a long race. It is many short races, one after the other. Walter Elliott said that, and it's true. Success isn't this grand sprint. It's hundreds, maybe thousands of tiny decisions made in the quiet. To keep going, to rise again, to try one more time. The middle is a crucible. It will shape you, wear you down, and offer you the chance to become someone new, not because everything is going your way, but because you're choosing to stay when everything feels uncertain. That's where growth happens. Matteo changed his life, not through massive visible wins, but through rituals. He'd come home from work and sit at the kitchen table for 20 minutes, just reading one chapter. He stopped trying to conquer the whole curriculum and focused on comprehension, not speed. And when he fell asleep with his face in the book, he didn't beat himself up anymore. He just picked it up again the next day. His daughter noticed, not in grand speeches or in test scores, but in presence, in the way he listened to her differently, in the way he stood a little taller, even after hard days. Here's the truth about the middle. You may not be able to see the changes happening inside you, but they're real. Every small act of consistency is building something. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're reinforcing identity. Not the identity of someone who dreams, but of someone who does. One day, Matteo passed his final exams. It didn't make the news. He didn't post about it online. He just walked home with his certificate in a brown envelope, opened the front door and smiled at his daughter. She didn't say much. She just hugged him a little longer than usual. That was all the applause he needed. You might not be able to see the end right now, but it's not the absence of applause that defines your journey. It's the quiet faithfulness of your steps. If you're in the middle right now, keep going. Not just for the goal, but for the person you're becoming along the way. And here's something else I want you to hear. Being tired doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. We assume that when things get hard, it's a sign to stop. But sometimes the fact that it's hard is proof that you're doing something meaningful, that you're stretching, that you're alive. Not coasting through life, but choosing to build something you'll be proud of. And yes, the middle gets messy. Your plans will need to be rewritten. Your pace will need to slow down. You'll need to unlearn what hustle culture taught you, that worth equals productivity. It doesn't. You're worthy in the pause too. In the days when you get less done. In the weeks when you feel like you're moving in circles. Matteo learned this slowly. He stopped measuring himself by how many chapters he finished and started asking, did I show up today? That became his new measure of success. There's something beautiful about becoming the kind of person who keeps promises to themselves, not because it's easy, but because it's right. And when it gets hard, and it will, remember what Vince Lombardi said. The difference between a successful person and others is not a lack of strength, not a lack of knowledge, but rather a lack in will. Will doesn't mean pushing at all costs. It means returning again and again. It means resting when needed, but not quitting. It means believing in something even when the evidence is thin. It means choosing not to give up on yourself just because the path hasn't opened yet. So if your fire is dimmed, protect it. Sit beside it, feed it with tiny sparks. A word of encouragement, a walk in the fresh air, a moment of gratitude. You don't have to be roaring every day to still be burning. What Matteo found, and what I hope you find, is that the middle becomes easier when you stop trying to conquer it and start learning how to walk with it. When you stop asking, when will this end? And start asking, who am I becoming through this? You might be closer than you think, but even if you're not, you're already becoming someone worth admiring, someone resilient, devoted, and deeply alive. So don't stop. Don't count yourself out. Don't measure your worth by speed or visibility. You're not a product of how fast you grow. You're a reflection of how bravely you stayed. The middle is not a punishment. It's a proving ground. Stay. Keep building. One quiet step at a time. You are the fire, not the flame. There's a difference between a flicker and a fire. A flame dances, flares, and fades, but a fire, if tended, burns deep and steady. You might feel like your spark is going out right now. Maybe life has poured cold water on your plans. Maybe you've tried and failed and tried again, only to find yourself in the same emotional place, tired, discouraged, doubting whether anything will ever change. But let me tell you something that may shift your entire perspective. You are not the flame that flickers. You are the fire that endures. We confuse tiredness with weakness. We think setbacks are signs we're not cut out for the path we chose. But tiredness is not your enemy. It's your teacher. It says, rest here, but don't stay here. Let me tell you about Neha, a 24-year-old from Mumbai. She dreamed of becoming a civil servant, a job of honor, influence, and service in India. She prepared for the exams with single-minded devotion. She studied during blackout hours with a candle. She skipped social events, moved to a quieter neighborhood, cut expenses to the bone, but she failed. Not once, not twice, 3 times. On her third failure, her friends moved on to other careers. Her relatives started to whisper behind closed doors. She was called stubborn, unrealistic. She sat on her small balcony one night and considered quitting. But instead of walking away, she asked herself one question. If I stop now, will I respect that decision 5 years from today? The answer was no. Neha changed her strategy. She studied differently, asked for help, started walking every morning to clear her mind. She passed the exam on her 4th attempt. When she walked into the public office on her first day, she didn't feel like a success. She felt like a survivor. And she was. She told someone later, "What changed wasn't my intelligence. It was how I treated myself when I failed." That's it. That's the message. You don't have to be perfect. You have to be kind, especially to yourself, especially when no one else knows how much it took just to keep going. There's a quote by Khalil Gibran that echoes through this truth. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars. Scars do not disqualify you. They qualify you. They're not signs of shame. They are symbols of survival. They say, "I have endured. I am still here." Another quote that captures this spirit is from Elizabeth Edwards, who once said, "She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails." Read that again. The wind doesn't always change for you, but you can adjust your direction. You are the variable. You are the fire. And here's a hard but freeing truth. Life does not owe us smooth roads. Sometimes we mistake difficulty for misdirection. But struggle does not mean you're on the wrong path. In fact, it often means you're on the real path, the path that shapes you into someone stronger, wiser, more compassionate. The third quote I want to give you comes from Oliver Goldsmith, and it might be the simplest yet most powerful one today. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. We are not defined by how few times we stumble. We are defined by how many times we stand back up. And in that spirit, I want to offer a simple but transformative micro habit, one I call the ignition ritual. Every morning, before you touch your phone, before you engage with the world, do one small thing that aligns with your deepest value. If you value growth, read a paragraph from a book that stretches you. If you value connection, send one short message of encouragement to a friend. If you value health, stretch for 2 minutes and breathe deeply. If you value purpose, journal one sentence about who you want to be. Do this not to achieve, but to ignite. Because when you act in alignment, even briefly, you remind your spirit who you are. You affirm your direction. You build momentum in the quiet. Let this be your new motto. My effort is not in vain. My fire is not out. My time is not over. You don't need to shout this. Just whisper it to yourself as you begin your day. Whisper it when doubts creep in. Whisper it when the world goes quiet. Because the truth is, the most important voice in your life is your own. Rise like you were meant to. Every morning is not just a reset of the clock, it is a resurrection, a second chance. A quiet announcement that your life is not finished, that your story is still being written, and that you are still in the fight. You may not have applause today. You may not have clarity, confidence, or even comfort, but you have breath. You have time. You have a decision to make, so make it. Choose Choose not to quit. Choose not to give up. Choose to believe that your path still matters even when no one else affirms it. Every step you take toward your better self matters. Every no you say to a destructive habit matters. Every yes you say to discomfort that leads to growth, that matters. So rise. Slowly if you must, silently if you must, but rise. You are not weak because you feel tired. You are not broken because you've struggled. You are not failing because you haven't arrived yet. You are human. You are becoming. You are enduring. And in that journey, you are already proving your strength. Your fire is still burning. Let it light your next step. Keep showing up. Not because it's easy, but because you're not done yet.